Recap: Alchemy Emperor of the Divine Dao, Chapter 1199, Chapter Reel. Within the silent expanse beyond the shattered mystery realm, the air trembled faintly with the lingering aura of ancient power, as though the inheritance of a supreme being still echoed between heaven and earth. Mu Rongqing's eyes shone with sudden brilliance, her voice rising with excitement as realization struck her heart. Second brother, he must have received the inheritance of an eternal river tier elite, she exclaimed, her tone filled with both certainty and admiration. In her mind, there was no doubt. Only someone of such extraordinary talent could be chosen by a power that transcended the mortal world. Feng Po Yun slowly inclined his head, his expression solemn yet respectful. Even he, who rarely praised others, could not deny the truth. The Rain Emperor's talent stood peerless among many, and perhaps, just perhaps, it rivaled even Ling Han himself. Helian Tianyun let out a quiet sigh, his gaze distant as envy flickered within his eyes. That brat, he truly has heaven-defying luck, he muttered, unable to conceal the bitterness hidden beneath his admiration. Ling Han remained silent. Though his expression was calm, his thoughts surged like a storm beneath still waters. This conclusion, that his second brother had been chosen as the inheritor, was something he had forced himself to believe. It was a fragile thread of hope, something he clung to so that despair would not swallow him whole. For if that were not the case, then the Rain Emperor might already be lost to him forever. Time passed. One after another, cultivators streamed out of the collapsing mystery realm, their figures flashing through the passageway like fleeting shadows. Yet Ling Han and his companions did not move. They remained rooted in place, their gazes fixed upon the fading entrance, unwilling to abandon even the slightest possibility. No confirmation had been given, no sign had appeared, and so they waited. The crowd gradually thinned, until finally silence fell. They were the last ones remaining. Above them, the passageway shimmered faintly, its stability wavering as though it could collapse at any moment. At that instant, a thunderous voice rang out, filled with both authority and impatience. "Hurry up and come out!" It was Venerable Trinity. Even for a being of the Eternal River tier, maintaining such a passageway was no trivial matter. The longer these people lingered, the heavier the burden upon him became. Ling Han exhaled softly, casting one final glance toward the depths of the mystery realm. Then, without hesitation, he turned and stepped forward. The moment they exited, the passageway snapped shut behind them, vanishing as though it had never existed. "Hurry up and leave," Venerable Trinity commanded once more, his tone leaving no room for delay. "Understood," they responded in unison. With a sweep of his hand, Venerable Trinity cleared the path ahead. Under his protection, they swiftly departed the valley, their figures darting across the barren land like streaks of light. Once they emerged from the confines of Death Valley, Venerable Trinity no longer lingered. His figure rose into the heavens, vanishing into the vast sky in the blink of an eye. At that moment, a heavenly body tier elite called out, his voice echoing across the gathering disciples. "He Tao, Shen Juer, Ling Han," he recited, naming the 7 king tiers one by one. "Return to the sect immediately and report to the 7 Rain Hall." Ling Han and the others clasped their fists respectfully, acknowledging the command without hesitation. Yet among the 7, one name would never again answer such a call. Wu Jie had been left behind within the depths of the mystery realm, his fate sealed beyond return. Still, they all understood the reason behind this summons. The majestic Heaven sect had long known of the palace hidden within the Yellow Spring mystery realm, and the requirement that only 7 king tiers could open its gates. Now that those chosen few had returned, it was only natural that the sect would seek to uncover what they had gained. If the inheritances they obtained were of sufficient value, the sect would undoubtedly replicate them for its own use. Thus, the group dispersed. Those belonging to the majestic Heaven sect returned to its grand mountain gates, while others departed for their own places of cultivation. Death Valley, after all, held no treasures beyond the now vanished mystery realm. It was a land of desolation, unworthy of lingering. And yet, Ling Han did not leave. Not immediately. He remained, along with his companions, his gaze fixed upon the empty sky, as though willing a figure to emerge. One day passed, then another. 10 days slipped by like grains of sand through an hourglass. Still, there was no sign of the Rain Emperor. At last, someone broke the silence. "Let's go," came the quiet voice. "If second brother truly obtained the inheritance, then he will return once he has mastered it." Ling Han fell into brief contemplation, then nodded slowly. Waiting here served no purpose. Moreover, the command to return to the sect had come from Venerable Trinity himself. To delay further would be to risk offending an existence even Empress Luan Xing might not be able to shield him from. And so, they departed. With the cloud-piercing shuttle slicing through the heavens, their speed became astonishingly swift. Though they had delayed by 10 days, they arrived at the majestic heaven sect only a mere 1 or 2 days later than the others. Without pause, Ling Han made his way to the Seven Rain Hall, which stood upon the lofty cloud-piercing peak like a celestial palace. Upon reporting his arrival, he was summoned within by a Sun-Moon tier elite. However, He Tao and the others were nowhere to be seen. Perhaps they had already come and gone, or perhaps they had yet to return. The hall was vast and solemn. The Sun-Moon tier elite sat before him, his presence heavy as a mountain. "What secret technique did you obtain from the treasure storage?" he asked directly. Ling Han's eyes flickered. Clearly, Shen Juer and the others had already reported the events within the mystery realm. But what of the techniques they obtained? Had they spoken the truth, or concealed it behind falsehoods? A moment of hesitation passed. Within his mind, countless thoughts collided. Should he hand over the star-plucking step? During the days he had spent waiting in Death Valley and traveling back, he had repeatedly tried to comprehend this movement technique. Yet even after spending over 10 days meditating beneath the reincarnation tree, his understanding remained shallow. From this alone, its profoundness was evident, a technique beyond ordinary comprehension. And yet, should he simply hand it over? The Sun-Moon tier elite chuckled faintly as though sensing his hesitation. "Rest assured," he said, "the sect will not take your technique without compensation. You will be rewarded fairly." Ling Han remained silent. Even if he wished to conceal the star-plucking step by offering another technique, what could he use? The 9 Dragons Tyrant Body Art, the Annihilating Dragon Star Arrow, the Universal 8 Desolation Technique. Each of these was no less valuable. In truth, they might even surpass the star-plucking step. There was no suitable substitute. Thus, after a brief moment, he spoke. "I obtained a movement technique called the star-plucking step." The Sun-Moon tier elite nodded. "Very well, write it down." Ling Han complied. Taking brush and paper, he began to transcribe the technique. Yet as the ink flowed, he soon discovered something astonishing. There were portions of the inheritance that could not be expressed through words. They existed beyond language, something that could only be comprehended through direct insight. No matter how he tried, no amount of writing could capture their essence. And if these parts were omitted, the technique would lose much of its power. Ling Han paused briefly, a hint of surprise flashing through his eyes. Then he made his decision. He would let it be. He had no interest in the sect's reward. Thus, he continued writing, recording what could be written, leaving the indescribable portions absent. Before long, he finished. "Done?" The Sun-Moon tier elite asked. He took the document and immediately sealed it with a decree, without even glancing at its contents. This seal would reveal whether anyone had tampered with the text before it reached its destination. "You may leave. Once its grade is determined, your reward will be issued." Ling Han bowed respectfully and withdrew. Time was something he sorely lacked. There were pill formulas waiting to be studied, cultivation techniques waiting to be mastered, and the star-plucking step waiting to be unraveled. Moreover, he stood on the brink of reaching the peak stage of the pinnacle level, after which he would need to comprehend the regulations of the Sun-Moon tier, a task that would demand immense effort. Every moment was precious. Thus, he entered seclusion. Days passed in quiet cultivation. At times, he immersed himself in alchemy, deciphering intricate pill recipes. At others, he practiced the star-plucking step, striving to grasp its elusive essence. Yet while he focused inward, a storm began to gather within the sect, invisible at first, then growing, then raging. Gao Huang stepped forward and lodged a formal accusation. His voice carried weight as he charged Ling Han with heinous crimes, killing fellow disciples and seizing the thousand-source true fluid that rightfully belonged to the Gao faction. At first, this matter remained confined to the upper echelons of the sect, but like a spark in dry grass, it spread. Soon, every disciple within the majestic heaven sect knew of the accusation. And with that, the sect erupted. To kill one's fellow disciples, this was a taboo beyond forgiveness. Such an act invited not only punishment, but scorn and hatred from all. Yet there were those who had witnessed the battle at Eagle Beak Mountain. They had seen Ling Han stand alone, suppressing the masses, seizing 4 drops of thousand-source true fluid through sheer strength. But what happened afterward? No one knew. The true battle had taken place beyond their sight. Moreover, not all disciples had been present. The sect housed both Sun Moon Tier and Mountain River Tier cultivators, and only a fraction had witnessed the events firsthand. Thus, rumors began to twist and grow. Whispers turned into claims. Claims turned into certainty. In time, speculation hardened into truth. Ling Han had killed his fellow disciples. Ling Han had stolen their treasures. Such words spread like wildfire, and with them, his rising reputation crumbled. Voices of condemnation rose from all directions. Such a person, does he deserve to remain in our sect? Punish him. Make an example of him. The cries grew louder with each passing day until they formed a tidal wave of anger. And at its center, Ling Han remained in seclusion, unaware that the storm had already begun to close in. Within the boundless depths of the Black Tower, where time flowed like a quiet river and the reincarnation tree shimmered with ancient vitality, Ling Han had long immersed himself in silent cultivation. His spirit wandered through profound Dao insights, severed from the turmoil of the outside world. The storm that had begun to gather beyond those hidden walls passed him by unnoticed, like distant thunder muffled by mountains. Only when he stepped out, intending to head toward the Mo clan establishment to retrieve pills and settle a lingering debt, did reality come crashing in. Before he could take more than a few steps, Shui Yanyu intercepted him, her expression tense, her breath uneven as she relayed the upheaval spreading through the sect. Them again? Ling Han's voice dropped, cold as winter frost, a sharp glint flashing in his eyes. This scene, it stirred memories he had no wish to revisit. Back in the chaotic star's majestic empire, Zhao Lun had once twisted truth into lies, dragging Ling Han before a public tribunal. At that time, only the Empress's decree had cut through the web of deceit, clearing his name and even sweeping away a nest of corrupt officials in one decisive stroke. Yet Zhao Lun himself had escaped punishment, shielded by his status and the delicate balance of power. That was then. If such insolence were to occur now, Ling Han knew, without a doubt, that the Empress would no longer hesitate. Zhao Lun would be crushed without mercy, and even the so-called Great General Zhao would not be spared if he dared stand in opposition. The Empress had never feared shedding blood, not even that of heavenly body tier generals. But this was the majestic heaven sect. Here, her authority could not reach. Even if she descended personally, there stood an insurmountable presence within the sect, an eternal river tier elite, towering like a mountain that none in the galaxy could hope to shake. Ling Han let out a low snort, his expression darkening. They twist truth and fabricate lies as they please, shameless beyond measure. The facts were clear as daylight. The 4 drops of thousand-source true fluid had been obtained by his own hand, witnessed by many. As for the Gao faction disciples, it had been Shi Ming who recklessly unleashed power at the Sun Moon tier, provoking the wrath of the Mystery Realm's restrictions and sealing his own fate. The others had been swept away by the terrifying rain of blood and bones that followed his violent death. Ling Han had not lifted a single finger against them. Yet now, every one of those deaths had been pinned upon him. Gao Huang, Ling Han murmured, his gaze turning icy. To twist reality so brazenly. I have seen shameless people before, but never one so utterly devoid of shame. Shui Yanyu's brows were tightly knit, worry evident in every line of her face. The entire sect is in an uproar. Everyone is saying you slaughtered your fellow disciples and stole their thousand-source true fluid. Ling Han shook his head, calm returning to his voice. The matter of the thousand-source true fluid is the least of our concerns. Too many witnessed me obtaining it. Besides, a faint, mocking smile tugged at his lips. Who would believe the Gao faction could gather 4 drops on their own? Realization dawned upon Shui Yanyu, her tense expression easing slightly. She had been too consumed by worry to think clearly. The real trouble Ling Han continued, stroking his chin thoughtfully, lies in the deaths of Shi Ming and the others. No one witnessed that battle, and even if someone did, it's unlikely they belong to the majestic heaven sect. Why would they step forward to testify for me? The galaxy was vast beyond imagination. Finding a witness, if one even existed, would be like searching for a needle in the cosmos. And even if such a person were found, what then? Witnesses could be bought. Against the wealth and backing of the Gao faction, supported by a heavenly body tier elite, Ling Han stood at a disadvantage. Though Shui Yanyu and Hu Feiyun had seen the events unfold, their closeness to him rendered their words easily dismissed as biased. Ling Han's eyes narrowed as he continued. Given Gao Huang's nature, he'll likely produce false witnesses, people who will swear they saw me commit those killings with their own eyes. Shui Yanyu's unease deepened. What do we do? This is their territory. The Gao faction holds immense influence here. Ling Han fell silent for a moment, then spoke with measured calm. Even they cannot cover the sky with one hand. This is the majestic heaven sect, not the Gao faction alone. Whether this can be resolved depends on the stance of the other 8 factions and Venerable Trinity's attitude. Shui Yanyu steadied herself, forcing her thoughts into order. Venerable Trinity has 9 disciples, each leading their own faction. Among the other 8, some must oppose the Gao faction. We don't need all of them. Just one faction's support would be enough to resist. Exactly, Ling Han smiled faintly. But why would they help us? What benefit would they gain? His tone turned teasing as he pulled her gently into his embrace. They're not my wives. They won't act out of concern for me. Her body pressed against his, soft and alluring, igniting a spark of warmth in him that had long been suppressed by cultivation. For days, no, for half a month, he had immersed himself in training, neglecting even the simplest of comforts. Now, with her so close, Shu Yanyu felt both annoyed and helpless. He had ignored her for so long, and yet now, at such a critical moment, he could still think of such things? Come, Ling Han said with a grin. Important matters are best discussed in bed. After passion ebbed and calm returned, Ling Han lay back, holding her close, his voice once again steady and analytical. Everyone knows I have several drops of thousand-source true fluid. If I seek help from other factions, they will demand it as payment. Shui Yanyu nodded slowly. And Gao Huang, he's likely trying to force your hand. He wants you to surrender it willingly. Ling Han's gaze turned cold. I haven't even met him, yet his actions speak clearly. A man who values results above all else. The lives of his subordinates mean nothing if they serve his goals. He let out a cold chuckle. He stands at the peak of the Sun-Moon tier. Without thousand-source true fluid, breaking through to the heavenly body tier could take over 1,000,000 years, or never happen at all. Shu Yanyu inhaled sharply. Then he'll do anything to take it from you. He's like a rabid dog, Ling Han said calmly. If I'm not careful, he'll bite, and that bite could be troublesome. Couldn't he just wait for the next opportunity? She asked, frustration creeping into her voice. Ling Han shook his head. A man like him, faced with 4 drops right before him, he wouldn't wait. His eyes darkened. And among all the king tiers, I am the easiest target. I come from a small world, no backing worth mentioning. The others had each obtained a drop as well, 5 in total. If Gao Huang could force them all to hand theirs over, he would possess 9 drops, far better than 4, a greater chance of breaking through. So why not target them? Because their backgrounds were formidable. Gao Huang did not fear strength. He feared consequences. Shui Yanyu hesitated before speaking. But doesn't the Empress favor you? Ling Han let out a faint laugh. When she helped me before, people believed she was acting through the 9th King's body. They thought it was his request. The difference was vast. If the Empress did not stand openly behind him, then Gao Huang only needed to contend with the 9th King, a far less daunting prospect. Even if both sides had heavenly body tier support, Gao Huang's backing was clearly stronger, with an eternal river tier master looming above. So, we must face this ourselves? Shui Yanyu asked softly. Ling Han nodded. Then, with a light tone, he added, Don't worry. If they truly push me too far, I'll release Notionless Saint. Even without his former power, a being who once stood at the saint level should be enough to frighten a few people. Shui Yanyu finally relaxed, comforted by his confidence. But deep within, Ling Han knew the truth. Notionless Saint. could not be used. His saintly might had already been refined and passed on. What remained was but a hollow shell of former glory. Against Eternal River tier elites, or even Heavenly Body tier warriors, it might not inspire fear at all. Those words were spoken only to ease her heart. And so, beneath the calm surface, the storm drew ever closer.